We're excited to announce the first ever, first of its kind higher education podcast conference brought to you by Edu Alliance, the Edu Experience, and Podium. This is happening Saturday, July 12th at the University of Illinois Chicago campus. This is an in-person event, one day only, the first of its kind. This is for people working in and around higher education who are interested in starting a podcast, who may have a podcast, want to learn more about podcasting. So if you want to be there, please go to higheredpodcon.com. That's higheredpodcon.com to learn how you can get your early bird registration, see who the keynote will be, and how you can submit proposals to be a part of this amazing inaugural conference. So that, again, go to higheredpodcon.com to learn more.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to Ed Up on the Ed Up Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back again and again to have great conversations with our colleagues across the industry. And speaking of conversation, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this. I am a podcaster, of course, or at least that's one of my Dr. Jekyll and Mr. I'm more like Dr. Jekyll and Dr. Jekyll, I think. No, Mr. Hyde. Wait, who is the good one? Anyway, that just happened in my mind. I'm sorry that it came out on the microphone. But we have, or are running, the EdUp Experience, along with our partners, are running the first ever inaugural and hopefully annual Higher Education Podcasting Conference on July 12th, 2025 on the campus of the University of Illinois, Chicago. That's a Saturday, one-day Saturday conference, the first ever Higher Education Podcasting Conference. We have our keynote speaker confirmed. We have sponsorships coming in. We have people registering because podcasting is a very real, of course, I'm going to sell the medium of podcasting, but it's a very real way to tell stories, direct, one-on-one with your potential consumer or stakeholder, right? Podcasting for enrollment, podcasting for marketing, podcasting for teaching, for learning. We're going to have different tracks. It's a one-day, first ever conference on podcasting. We hope that you will take a look at the website, Higher Ed Podcon. Doesn't sound too technical, right? higheredpodcon.com. Pretty easy. Go check it out. Register. We hope to see you there. And of course, and I keep saying it week after week, and I'm waiting for these articles to flood my way, but they're kind of trickling in, and that's probably because people are taking their time to write good stuff. But EdUp Editorials has been live now, I think, for 6 months or so. We've been printing and publishing articles from our colleagues across higher education and sending them out to our worldwide audience, getting people great traction. If you want to write something, get it to us. At EdUp, see, there's lots of ats. EdUp at edupexperience.com. Submit your article. We'll publish it, but we want you to tell a good story. What's good? What's good? We hear about the bad, man. Oh, man, do we hear about the bad? This is changing, regulation, that, administration, this, bad, blah, blah, blah. We have to persist. Higher education must persist beyond the disruption. We still have to serve students. How are we going to do that amidst the disruption? That's what we want to know. And I'm excited today because I have a returning guest, which I really love, and a first-time guest co-host from one of our longest partners at the EdUp Experience. His name is very long, but he shortens it. I mean, he'll tell you his full name. Let me see if I can bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Shub Mishra. He is head of business development and partnerships at Lead Squared. Shub, what's going on?
Hey, Joe. Thank you for having me here. And yeah, the name is pretty long. It goes by Shubhankit, but yeah, that's way too long. So we just got it down.
Shub works for me. I need to, yeah, Shub works for me. But Shub, thanks for being on here. I mean, gosh, we've known each other for a long time now. So for you to be on the mic, either you told everybody to get out of the way and you're going to get it to the microphone, or there was nobody to step up, and so Shub had to come on the microphone and take it home, if you will.
No, I wouldn't say the truth here. No, I won't do that. But yeah, let's just assume that I wanted to be here.
You're here because you wanted to be here, because you love being in front of the microphone.
I really wanted to be here.
That's right. Yeah. We'll go with that. And ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing returning guest with us, who I know things have been growing in her world, which was the entire reason of why she's where she is, and in a state where colleges are not growing, and this college is. And so we love to talk about growth stories here. And let's bring her in, ladies and gentlemen. She's Dr. Christa Montagnino. I think I got that right. Executive Vice President at Champlain College Online. What's going on, Christa? How are you?
Doing great. So thank you. I'm delighted to be back. I will say, though, that I haven't not earned the title of doctor. So
Oh, well, I thought you had, but you know what? I think you should
you
have
can
it.
you can provide me an honorary doctor.
Yeah, I'm giving you the first ever EDIP Experience honorary doctorate to cover up my mistakes. So when I make a mistake, what I do is I cover it with something good. That's what we like to do. So you will. That'll happen, right? But I will tell what I will say is this: that if you come back on the EDIP Experience as a 2-time guest, it should be automatic. You should just be an automatic doctor.
I like that. I like that.
How things going in your world? And tell us again about Champlain College, Christa.
Excellent. Yeah, I will say that, you mentioned about good stories. I do feel we have a really good story happening at Champlain College and Champlain College Online. I run the online division here at the college, and I've been here now almost 2.5 years. And in that period of time, we've launched over 30 programs that we've added
in the online piece.
in the online
Wow.
space. We really dive deeply into AI and also AI literacy for students, which we think is really important. Reinforcing kind of our prominence in the space of transfer, prior learning assessment for our students, because being a career-focused institution, it's really important that not only that we impart, right, academic content to students that will prepare them for careers, but that we honor and understand they already bring to us a lot of career experience that needs to be translated into credit as well. So Champlain College Online has just prided itself for being around for 30 years. Offering online degree programs and serving students from all over the country. So even though we're small, we're quite mighty because we have students that literally are coming from every state and 2 territories. So that geographic diversity in our classroom is what we also think contributes to kind of the career focus. When you are in class with students, 9 out of 10 claim to be working full-time, and you are experiencing and learning about others from all over the country, we think that enhances the learning that happens. And the reinforcement of practitioner faculty that we rely on to teach our classes. Not only do they help create the content for the classroom, but they're the ones leading the classroom discussions and, imparting kind of their wisdom of this is what's happening in the industry today. This is why this is important. And when we have degrees, 62% of our students are in cybersecurity, digital forensics, and IT. And so it is really critical you have people who have that practitioner lens and who are, living and experiencing that today to be most successful for our students.
Amazing.
Now, I want to, before I pass it to Shub to get his amazing insight, I want to paint just a quick picture. You were on the EDIP Experience probably like 20 to 21 months ago, because it's been about 18 months since your episode published, and we were at that time about 3 months behind on publishing episodes. So it's been a while. Tell us, because at that point you were fairly new. It was September of 23. You had been there for just a little bit. Take us on the journey. Where did things kind of start for you? Maybe even in terms of population or total programs, and how far have you come in what is still a relatively short period of time?
Yeah, so we had, I think at that time, about 65 programs total. So now we're over 100 programs. And we've seen a pretty significant shift as well in programs that it was 1 in 4 of my students were graduate students. And now 36% of my new students are graduate. So that's been shifting pretty dramatically. We added a lot of graduate programs to the portfolio in technology related areas, kind of going back to what I mentioned, the cybersecurity, the digital forensics, as well as our MBA has really expanded because we added a lot of concentrations to the MBA. So that's where we've seen, a pretty significant amount of growth. I will say, yeah, in that time as well, as we all know, AI has emerged as just an incredible, right, game-changing experience for all of us. And choosing as a technology institution, right, we've embraced it fully and using it in designing our courses, embedding technologies that will enhance learning for our students, but also realizing this isn't just about, right, we have a degree, a bachelor's of science in data science and artificial intelligence. Very excited about that. But it isn't just about the academic content of AI. It's about understanding that every degree program needs AI literacy. And so whether you're a student in marketing, whether you're a student in psychology, you're learning prompt engineering. You're learning, right, also what could be some of the challenges associated with AI. AI literacy is about understanding hallucinations too. And how do you validate the information that's coming through? What could be missing? What kinds of diverse voices could be missing in AI? And how do you rectify that through proper prompt engineering, regardless of field? So AI has really taken off. The number of programs have really, taken off. And then I think really doubling down on the idea that as an institution, we are responsible for helping students lower student loan debt and really taking that role seriously. And so what does that look like, right? We lowered our tuition. I think I had mentioned that last time on the graduate level to help students. We are constantly looking at efficiencies ourselves, right? Because if we don't find efficiencies as an institution, we can end up putting that burden on students by having to raise tuition. So we haven't raised tuition. And our goal is in the foreseeable future not to raise tuition on our students. Continuing to unpack what it means to be transfer friendly also means that we can help lower student loan debt. I go back to respect for students. I'm really big on that. You respect students' learning that they've done in their work environment by awarding them prior learning assessment credit that we don't charge for. That is unique. But also understanding they have prior college experience that we also have to find a way to fit into our degree programs so they're not having to retake courses with us either. Again, contributing to lowering their overall student loan debt. So I think those are probably the biggest hallmarks, I would say, because we already had exceptional applied learning. We continue to look at ways to enhance that. But that has just been in our DNA since we started 30 years ago.
Now, I want to keep going because I'm just, like you said, things that just set all of my brain's just going crazy. But Shub is here and he has been gearing up for this episode, and I'm going to pass the mic to him, but I need to prepare. I want everybody to be ready for his amazing question that's coming.
Attention.
All right, Shub.
Okay, thanks, Joe. So I think we just want to follow up on what you were talking about, Christa, in terms of online education, growth, and everything around it. But I think just out of curiosity, and because a lot of our learners are folks who are trying to grow their traditional institution in an online institution, right? And that sort of process is coming in. We're moving away from a mindset that should we offer online to essentially how do we scale it smartly, right? So a lot of institutions are essentially in that sort of process. And you've been yourself at Champlain, and then before that, you were leading partnerships at academic partnerships, right? So you've seen all kinds of worlds, right? What shifts have you seen in general on how nonprofit higher ed institutions approach online education? Like over the last, let's say just 3 to 5 years, COVID happened and everything happened, right? So how do you see that change essentially come in?
We've done a few surveys, Champlain College Online has, and in these surveys that we've partnered with others to conduct, I think it's really clear that the pandemic shifted people's perceptions of quality of, online, employers believing that, online education and traditional education are equal. students' perceptions, perspective, as well as current students. Employers generally seeing the value of being able to, upskill and invest in their workforce through online education. And so I think what you're seeing, a lot of us are seeing, is that there is no longer a generation associated with online. We have, I say upwards of 4 generations sitting in our classroom right now. And in particular, you've heard a tremendous amount of growth we're all seeing in students, 22 or younger. And that is true at Champlain College Online. And so that is one of the bigger shifts, I think, most recently, that we all should be prepared for. And it's just meeting, right, the student where they're at. And if a student is telling us their lifestyle is requiring for them to have more flexibility, even at a younger age, how do we still best serve them, provide them the education they need to be successful, to be career ready, which is what we talk a lot about here at Champlain College Online. And so I think the shift, of age, I think, we're all seeing that the shift for need for flexibility, the shift on perception, and the quality of online education. And so that's making a lot of institutions continue to invest in that space.
Bullseye.
So
I mean, she did hit it right on the mark, right?
Yeah, she did. I think that's what I was saying. That's pretty interesting. I was actually reading a NACAG report, which said that nearly 40% of online learners are first-gen or mid-career professionals, right? And essentially, their priorities are very different than the traditional cohort that you see around there, right? I mean, they're trying to see a lot of career pivots. While people keep talking about enrollment cliffs in the traditional undergrad and traditional education part of it, I think, do you think that's actually a question as well? Do you think enrollment cliffs that is spoken about, is that also a reason for institutions to look at online growth, that has essentially forced institutions to look at online education as such?
Yeah, I think, right, it comes down to your mission, and it comes down to the reality of we need to serve learners. We need, increased educational attainment to be competitive as a country. And whether that student is looking for a traditional on-campus experience or they're looking for an online experience, or somewhere in between, right? We need to meet that if that means that they are going to be more successful. And so my hope is institutions just look at it and say, what is our student asking of us? What did they need in order to retain and be successful and ultimately graduate? And, either bring them into the career that they're looking for or promote them within the career they're already in. And so modality, I think students, especially younger students, don't look at it as an or. Okay, do I do a traditional education or do I do online? It's just table stakes to have online now as an institution, even if the majority of your students you define as 18 to 22. They're expecting that they have that option available to them as they go to school. And so if you think about that, the student isn't necessarily just in one age category, you don't worry so much about the demographic cliff. There's a lot of Americans that need to continue their education where they maybe have stopped off previously. Maybe they're starters, they're just starting a degree and in their mid-30s. Maybe they are 18 and coming right out of high school, but we definitely have a need. If you look at open positions across the country and the ability to fill, especially some of these more technical related areas, we all have enough students, to go around if we stop looking at it as just simply that high school graduate.
Chris, you hit on some stuff because I want to come back around to the AI piece because I know how important that is to the conversation and to what you're doing at Champlain College. But, as you've taken this journey, you're going through what many leaders today are going through. AI is a really good example of it. of how inertia is created, positive and negative. Faculty, right? Like there's faculty that say I've had presidents and people on my podcast, and they're just going, if a student uses AI in our classrooms, they're failing the class. Like that's it. If they touch AI. And there's people that are buying AI detectors. I talked to a gentleman from Pangram, the CEO, where my co-founder, Alvin Freites, works, and he was talking about using an AI detector as a learning tool to give students guardrails. And I was like, yes, those are the kind of things we have to think about. So AI is a really tangible example of how inertia is created. But you come in 2 years ago, and you need to grow online. And from experience too, I know that whenever you try to grow something, there are people that think you're taking away from something. You're cannibalizing current programs. And what happens to me? What happens to me? Why, if all the students move into your version of the MBA program or this specialization, what happens to my MBA version, my specialization? Are you going to mess with the academic calendar? And Chris, I don't start messing with the academic calendar. That's going to create lots of problems for me, right? I love messing with academic calendars, but nobody else likes it that much. Transfer, PLA, expanding that. You're going to have people that faculty or staff that go, well, wait a minute. If we take more credits, we're hurting our financials. If we take more credits, are we making things fit? Should we make things fit? Do we really want this student or not? It's like brings up all of these thoughts that we all harbor, these opinions that we harbor about our students, and it brings them to light. And you hear that a lot when somebody says, well, our students or the right student for us. And you just go, who the heck are you talking? You've gone through this. I know you have. How have you managed all of the opinions and personalities and change management that goes along with building something new? That was a long build up to that question.
I think we're in such a beautiful industry, higher education. And as long as we have, right, the orientation that whatever we do, we're all going to make an agreement. Whatever we do, it's going to be in the best interest of the student. And that is paramount. That is how we make decisions. Then you can align everyone. Right?
Do you think, though, that I've personally seen that people's version of what they think that is different?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like the students at the center of the decision that I think, and you think they're at the center of what you think. So so it even gets down to that nuanced level of our perception of what's best for the student, right?
Yeah. And so it does keep shifting. And for example, your, the discussion you shared about AI and what you just shared about some, anecdotal feedback about others saying that, if someone uses it, they might fail an assignment because of it. And others using, being able to look and say, hey, I know that AI and detecting AI, it's probability. And I think that's a very important distinction, that it's a probability score. It is not a guarantee that someone has used AI. I say that because, right, I look at this as the best interest of the student isn't saying we're going to deny you a technology that is there, exists, no one can turn back the clock on it, but these students are going to need to know how to use it in their job. Every role we can think of now needs to use AI in the workplace. So let's prepare students, if we're really here to serve their best interests, and not to tell them not to use it and not to go around using, AI detectors as punitive, right? But it's to teach them how best to use it as a tool to enhance their learning. And so I think you're hitting on something really important. There is a lot of change management needed in every environment. But again, if we're really going to serve the student regardless of generation, regardless of whether if, they're first-time college students or this is the 5th institution they've attended, if they're not working and they're a full-time student, or they're working full-time and a full-time student, right? That we have to serve everybody. If we're all going to be successful as a community, as a nation, right? We have to figure out a way to serve everyone. And so I think it's just bringing people back and always reminding them of mission. And that can often help with change management.
It's a tough gig, change management. I got to tell you, it's a tough deal, Shub.
Yeah, I know. I mean, actually, I have a question for both of you on that, and Christa, for you especially. And we keep, as a technology company, we keep having this debate about what is AI going to do. How often people confuse AI and machine learning, right? Which are two separate things. You can't mix them together, right? And as a CRM platform, as a platform for enrollment teams and everyone, one of our biggest debates right now is that for something like AI and automation, what do you see it as? Is it like a enabler for human teams, or are we looking at them as complete replacement for all of these human teams, especially in the context of higher education, the admissions, student support and services, right? We are dealing with these students on a day-to-day basis. Do you really see AI as really a replacement for these guys, or is it an enabler for you guys at Champlain?
Higher Ed PodCon is coming. Go to higheredpodcon.com. That's higheredpodcon.com to learn more.
It creates a more human world, AI. And I'll tell you why. Because when we can have automated, right, administrative tasks taken off my academic advisor's plate, so they're not doing the manual from one system to another, importing a course, looking at their prior transfer to say, here's the remaining courses they need in their program, here's when they're offered during what term. When that manual process that takes so much administrative time from them can be done by AI now, that gives them more time to talk to our students. That gives them more time to be able to have, okay, where do you want to go with your career? What would it mean for you to embed 2 more certificates inside the 4-year degree without taking more time to graduate? Would that make you more competitive? What would that mean if you were able to add to LinkedIn in 4 months from now that you held the project management certificate as well as in addition to working toward this MBA? All of those things, they can have conversations with students and be more human. So I truly believe AI is game-changing because it's going to give my team more time to work with students. The other thing that it's going to do for us is we have started moving in the direction of course development starts with AI. And why is this important? Because it creates efficiency for us with resources. So again, I don't have to raise tuition for my students if I'm finding more efficient ways to bring to my virtual shelf more courses, more programs for my learners. So I think there's so much power, and it doesn't mean to downplay, right? There are, as we talked about, hallucinations. There are challenges with what information can be provided back, especially through generative AI. But it's teaching literacy regarding AI and why you get those hallucinations, why they might see the information that could be missing, why you even want to compare and use 2 different AI, search generative to see what comes out as results from it.
I think too, to add to that, Shub, I do worry though that there is a movement, and I have heard, and I've talked to many, of sort of replacing the human tasks of talking to other humans. And I can think of one specific example of an institution that is looking at the idea of replacing all the upfront admissions work completely with AI. Just everything would be done with AI. You would never talk to a human. And I mean, it sounds good until you try to, like, the idea of that sounds good until you get into some other functions of life. Like if you try to call your airline and get money back and you're only talking to an AI, you're never going to get your money back. There isn't going to be the creativity of the customer service who says, you've been a loyal customer. We're going to make this one-time exception for you that gets you to come back. The AI is never going to be able to be as creative as the humans and as the humans in the AI. But I worry that I'm with Chris. I think that the AI efficiency will make us more willing and more excited to talk to other people, because we're going to want that interaction amidst all of the automation. I really do think that. I think people will seek it out. I think that at some point in our lives we'll be so overwhelmed that everything around us is so automated. We're going to go, can I just talk to a real person? Don't you remember when airlines started putting in all the automated stuff? And it was like, and what you do when you call, airlines are a great example, because when you call them, you just go, representative. And the bot comes back on and says, well, I understand you want to talk to a representative, but how might I help? And you just go, representative. You don't even go through it. You're just like, get me to a human as fast as possible. So it'll be interesting to see, but education at its core still is about the faculty-student relationship. It is about the creativity and the learning that happens, even online, on ground. It's about the feedback. It's that feedback that you get. And Chris, I think that assessment can be one way where AI can help, right? It can help assess a student's structural writing, but I don't know that it's going to ever be able to replace that faculty member that goes, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Maybe.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on, I think there is an element of, right, it kind of goes back to, there's an element here of respect again, right, for your student. You want to give them choices. So for those that prefer and they do want to go through AI in the admissions process, we should be able to offer that to a student.
Great point.
But I do believe that, right, when I, as someone who grew up in the world of enrollment, when I first started in higher education, if I could have AI helping me look at where did the students spend the time on the page before I got them directly on the phone? What were the things they submitted already, transcripts? Can those be already evaluated for me? Can it compare the different degrees to say which degree would be the fastest? You know, all those things that would equip me to have a better conversation with my student. That's what AI should be used for. So then I can spend time talking to them, you know, just exactly what you were saying, Joe, about that human connection you can't replicate, about why haven't they done it to this point? Like, what's held them?
Oh my gosh.
What does it mean for them to do this? Who is who's their biggest advocate for going to school? How are they planning on managing their time in order to be successful? Like, that's where I would get to spend all of my time, because AI has taken care of so many administrative functions, that then, right, I get a deeper relationship with my students. And the same is true with faculty. Because that faculty engagement, when they can have a rubric built for them over assignments that are due, instead of them trying to piece that together, just means more time they get to spend in the electronic classroom with students, directly conversing with them about how their experience, right, relates to the topics that the students are learning that week.
And your point, I got to tell you, the enrollment point's such a good one, because there's a part of enrollment that is processing. It's like information and application processing. You're filling things out. The students may do that on their own with AI programs and so on. But if you've ever really worked enrollment, you know that getting a student to enroll is about confidence building. And I don't know that there'll ever be an AI program that it's going to be able to replicate the one-on-one human confidence building by somebody that's done it, or somebody that knows how I'm thinking and building my confidence that, yes, it's possible. The processing is the easy part, right? But that hard part of getting a student to believe in themselves, because, you know, Chris, how many students come in and just go, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. I'm not sure if I fit here. And so we're just trying to build confidence along the way. Now, if we can take away all of the burden of the tasks that are repetitive, we can build greater confidence.
Yes, and it's like the marriage of the two. I get so excited about this, because you think about, right, if AI has already been able to capture. They spent time on the military page. They submitted an ARCH transcript that shows they're in E7 and this was their MOS in the military. If it shows that they have language skills in Spanish, so then when I'm building confidence, I'm equipped through AI to be able to say, did you know you can take a CLEP test that's worth 12 credits because you know Spanish? That's half a semester of college you already completed. Did you know your MOS in the military is worth 17 credits? You already have a year's worth of college before you even step foot in here. You're talking a 4-year degree for you now is only 3 years. How does that sound? You already have college level learning and you didn't know it. So if AI is marrying and giving me that information so I could have better conversations with my students, that's what it's about.
Shub, did you actually try to work us up? Is that what happened here? You got Chris and I just juiced up on talking about this stuff with your last question?
No, absolutely. No, actually, I wanted to talk about that. See, from our end, whenever we go on these discussions, right, and everyone is talking, AI is the buzzword right now, and everyone is talking about, what are you guys doing in terms of AI, right? And we're always like, we can help with precision, we can help with decision making, we can help with efficiency, and that's what AI can do. But if you want that empathy part of it to be taken away in admissions, in support and servicing part of it, I'm not setting you up for success, because you'll never be able to make a student happy by taking the empathy away. So you do need someone at the hem of it. And like precision, efficiency, that frees up enough time for the teams internally to be empathetic to the students. But at the same time, you cannot have AI replacing the humans. And I really love it how some of the schools are now thinking are looking at student servicing and retention, all of these things more like customer success for the way SaaS companies do it, right? They're proactive, they're data driven, they want to humanize a lot of this stuff, right? So it's really exciting to see how Christa and a lot of other institutions are approaching it. And it's more like that approach that we want to be proactive with the students. We want to have the data on our chips, the summary of data points on our chips, and then we want to humanize the whole conversation so that it's absolutely what the students want to hear. While we are at it, I think, Christa, this is something we have been talking about a lot. I looked at the Champlain College retention numbers, right? The student retention numbers, and you guys have done some good work there. I mean, it's pretty cool how you've been doing that stuff. Would love to know, what are you using some sort of AI on that end as well? And what is the secret sauce for a lot of folks who are trying to get to that part of it? Because online colleges have a lot of attrition rate as well, because it's at the comfort of the home. You're able to start a degree and maybe never complete it, right? So what are you guys really doing to maintain those retention numbers, if that's not a secret sauce?
Yeah. So I think the biggest point you just made, which is maintaining our retention numbers. We have strong retention numbers that I'm very proud of, 77% overall for our students. And so in the online world, that is particularly challenging because of the kinds of students that we're working with, right? If 9 out of 10 of them claim to be working full time, there's a lot of other pressures in life that happen. Number one, financial. And we all know that that's a challenge with inflation and so forth right now. So to me, I look at is how do we retain the high retention rates we have into the future. And so some of those things that we're looking at is when I mentioned the number of programs that we added, it really was helping build in stackable credentials into our programs. Because I go back to, right, Joe, you mentioned confidence. It's not just confidence for a student to enroll in the first place, it's confidence for them to continue. So if I can help them with that by saying, yes, you're enrolling in our 4-year degree, a bachelor's of science in cybersecurity, bachelor's of science in business management, for example, but let's talk about the fact that it makes sense for you as well to embed an associate's degree along the way. How about we also embed this additional certificate along the way for you? So that way they have these milestones that build confidence, allow them to be in the job market sooner if need be, or eligible for that promotion sooner than just waiting for the 4-year degree to be complete. So I think that's part of what we're looking at that will help us continue to have strong retention numbers. The advising I spoke about, I think that one-on-one advising that we offer to our students, I cannot tell you that how many students claim graduation, conversations that I have with learners, that in addition to their faculty member, the most important person to them is their academic advisor. Because those conversations, are critical. And again, if I allow my academic advisors more time to spend with students and make proactive phone calls just to touch base, just a temperature check. How do you feel the program's going? Is it what you expected it would be? What are you seeing as challenges for yourself? And maybe help them manage, and have deeper conversations. They might need tutoring career, because AI is going back to what we just all spoke about, right? Handling the processes for them. That will help with retention as well. Did that answer your question?
No, it does. It does. And I think, do you think it's fair to say that we hear this keyword contact strategy a lot in the inquiry to enrollment funnel? Do you think it's fair to say that schools should look at contact strategy post-enrollment as well, in terms of how frequently their advisors are reaching out to the existing students in terms of what they should be doing, how they should be moving forward with their degree? Do you think that sort of trend should essentially come in post-enrollment world as well?
So going back to respecting our students, one of the first conversations you should have, that we have at Champlain College Online, is as soon as that student is admitted, they've accepted their enrollment, they're now ready to be registered, they get introduced to their academic advisor. The academic advisor is having conversations with them about, how do you prefer to be contacted? What is it that you would be looking for in this relationship? And then, of course, sharing with them, here's the things that I do for you in this process as well. So they create their communication plan together. So it's individualized. So we're not just assuming a student needs to hear, 3 times in the first course and, on Wednesdays, or, we're tailoring it based on what the student needs are. We also can look at predictors, right? AI can help us with that. We've seen in the past a predictor that if students aren't posting that first assignment until after the due date in the first week, we know that's a predictor that we would need to make more outreach to the student, for example. But I think it really goes back to respecting the student and making sure they're part of creating the communication plan.
That's good. I like that a lot. I like that a lot because it gives students skin in the game, especially if they agree. Like I want to agree, sort of have some unsigned contract that if you send me an email, I'm going to return it because that's my preferred method of contact. And then if I send the student an email and they don't return it, my next call to them or next contact to them would be, you told me the email was your best contact. It gives me a proactive reach out if I'm not getting a return. It's a really good strategy. I love to hear always love to hear the retention strategies, because as enrollment becomes harder and harder, competition heats up, keeping who you have is so important. Keeping students engaged is so important. And there's so many reasons and so much noise to get in the way of them completing. Not that there wasn't before, but social media, the devaluation of the degree, all of the things happening, it's just really hard for students to navigate through what's real and what's not. Chris, don't you think?
Shoop, I will say also, I so agree with you, Joe, and Shoop, your question on retention, there's a component of our future goal as well as financial literacy. Because, right, if the number one reason a student leaves school is financial, one of the things that we want to enhance, to keep these retention rates at the level they're at, maybe even improve them, possibly improve them, is we're thinking about what we would call, healthcare calls them, patient navigators. We want to have something similar, that a student financial navigator, of helping them think about, okay, yes, you're about to take a student loan, right? Earlier in their career with us. What does that mean for you? based on the number of transfer credits? How could you lower the amount that you would owe with us, taking advantage of prior learning assessment, for example? Do you have an employer that reimburses that can help you lower that student loan debt by repaying your loan early through what your employer provides to you? If you don't have tuition reimbursement through your employer, have you thought about creating a contract with your employer over the ability that you would provide, for example, maybe 2-year commitment after graduation if they give you a certain amount of money toward your loan? Someone loses their job, right? That financial navigator can help them talk about, were you aware there is something called financial aid? I know your employer was offering you direct bill and paying for your degree, but you can still continue if you want, and here's the process to do it. But I think that if we can inform and empower students to understand the best ways to finance their degree and how to lower the overall debt that they'll be taking to accomplish it, I think that also can help. And so we're looking at starting this coming year, a position kind of what we would call an enrollment navigator, but it really is like a student navigator for a student throughout their career.
Let's go.
That's pretty interesting, actually. On the same end, Christa, I think, and I love the idea of financial navigator and enrollment navigator. I was recently reading about WGU and Capella and how of these guys are, they call it pricing innovation, right? That's the thing that's going on in the industry, in the online degree piece of it, right? Someone is talking about flat rate subscriptions, right? Someone is talking about as you go learn models, right? Or pay as you go models, right? But do you think like more traditional schools can make that sort of model work without compromising the financial aid frameworks or academic rigor? Like, do you think these sort of innovations can potentially scale and penetrate the market as a whole?
Well, I don't know enough, I think, about that. But what I will say is Western Governors has been exceedingly successful, and especially when it comes to growth. So there certainly is a student out there looking for validation that they already have Western Governors model, right? A student might come in as a teacher already, and they have a tremendous amount of experience already. And they look and say, gosh, I don't need to sit in course by course in order to accomplish this. I have the ability that through my learning and my competencies to prove that I have the equivalencies, right, of those objectives from the courses that can enable me to finish faster. And I think that's part of what makes the subscription model so successful for Western Governors is the competency based. So I do think it's possible to translate, but it goes back to what your mission is as a university, who are the students that you're serving, and are you identifying your curriculum and building in a way that it is able to be translated to competencies so you can do a subscription model more successfully.
Well, I got to tell you that, yeah. So whenever I have really, really good conversations, time just, boom, it went like fast. So we're like already at the end with you, Chris, and I haven't even asked you what you see for the future of higher education. So we have to get this in because we can go back and compare what you say now to what you said before and see how much it aligns. I'm sure it's all great, but we do want to know because AI has really presented itself since we had you on last time in much deeper ways. So there's your question. What do you see for the future of higher ed?
Breaking down barriers. And what I mean by that is like I'm already seeing it in my classroom that when you have students from 50 different states, when 4 out of 10 identify themselves as a racial or ethnic minority, the split of the different generations that are sitting in our classroom, right? What we're doing is contributing to such incredible community and understanding how higher ed breaks barriers. When students are sitting in class from Texas, Alabama, Vermont, and New York in the same classroom, and they're breaking down perceived, assumptions stereotypes because they have to work together and learn. People are people. And understanding, right, that I think our world, we've gotten to a point where there's so many bubbles, like, right? We have information bubbles that we live in. We have political bubbles that we live in. And so I think higher ed is able to break that down and break down barriers, not only for people looking to advance in their career, but also just in understanding that we are more alike than we're not. And so I just think it's going to continue, and it's probably going to be accelerated through some of the technologies that allow us to have so much diverse student, the student body sitting in class where multiple generations learn from one another. People from different parts of the country learn from one another. People with different perspectives are learning from one another. And that value of that exchange will break down barriers.
Well, I don't know about you, Shub, but this is one heck of a first-time guest co-hosting opportunity you've had here with Chris.
Absolutely. No, I think there's so many takeaways for us as someone who follows the higher ed industry, at the same time as a technology company as well. I think there's a huge amount of learning in terms of where the industry is headed, outcome-based, AI-based adaptive learning, and a lot of other stuff. No, but Christa, I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation, I think. And I really think it's going to benefit a lot of people. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you both for your time. Thank you for inviting me. It's just incredible experience. So.
Well, we always love having you here. And, you can come back and co-host with me, Chris, anytime you want.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's lots of good people to interview out there that would love questions from you. Shub, thank you to you and Lead Squared for being a great partner here to the EdUp Experience. And thank you especially, and most importantly, to our guest today. Let me get the audience ready. Here we go. She's Dr. Chris Montagnino. She is this Executive Vice President for Champlain College Online. And you've just EdUp'd.
Did you buy your tickets yet? Higher Education's first podcast conference is coming July 12th. Go to higheredpodcon.com, higheredpodcon.com. Get your tickets.